They handed me the oldest rifle on the rack, laughing like I was the punchline. "Stick to the kitty targets," she sneered. But when my final shot shattered the range record they'd held for 3 years, their smiles died faster than their egos. This is how I made them eat every insult. If you love a good underdog story, smash that like button and subscribe. You won't regret it. My name is Brynn, and I was 19 when I learned that some people are born believing the world owes them everything, while others are taught to fight for every single breath. I'd just started at Westridge University on a partial scholarship. It wasn't much, but it was mine. My dad had been a veteran, the kind of man who could steady a rifle in a hurricane and still hit center mass. He taught me discipline, focus, how to breathe through pressure. He died when I was 16, and I'd spent every day since trying to make him proud. When I got accepted into the shooting sports program, it felt like destiny, like I was finally honoring his memory. I had no idea I was walking into a war zone. The range facility was intimidating from the moment I stepped inside. Chrome rifles gleamed under fluorescent lights, trophies lined every glass case like monuments to greatness, and team photos covered the walls with faces that screamed confidence and privilege. Everyone there looked like they'd been born holding a rifle. I clutched my dad's old compass in my jacket pocket and tried to breathe. Then I met Thorn. He was 22, team captain, with cold blue eyes and the kind of perfectly styled hair that probably cost more than my entire wardrobe. His father had funded the new range wing, and everyone worshipped him like royalty. 3-time regional champion, untouchable. When I introduced myself during orientation, he looked me up and down like I was dirt on his shoes and asked if I was lost from the library. The team around him snickered. I felt my face burn hot with embarrassment. That's when Marlowe stepped in. His girlfriend, the vice captain, all designer activewear and expensive manicures. She touched my secondhand gear bag like it might give her a disease and said, "Oh, sweetie, this isn't summer camp. Some of us actually belong here." Her laugh sounded like breaking glass. I wanted to disappear. I wanted to defend myself. But my voice caught in my throat, and all I could do was stand there while they decided I wasn't worth their time. When the coach started assigning practice partners, everyone paired up before I could even speak. I watched them choose each other, laughing and comfortable, while I stood alone at the edge of the group. No one looked at me. No one offered. I was invisible and humiliated at the same time, and that first day I realized something that made my stomach sink. This wasn't just about shooting. This was about proving I deserved to exist in their world. And they'd already decided I didn't. That night, alone in my dorm room, I pulled out my dad's compass and turned it over in my hands. He used to say that direction matters more than speed, that you can't let people knock you off course just because they're louder or richer or crueler. I thought about quitting. I really did. But then I remembered his face, his voice, the way he believed in me even when I didn't believe in myself, so I made a choice. I wasn't going anywhere. They wanted me gone? They'd have to drag me out, because I didn't come this far to let people like Thorn and Marlowe decide my worth. The first practice session made it official. I wasn't just the outsider. I was their entertainment. While everyone else lined up to choose equipment from the premium rack, all gleaming barrels and perfect balance, I watched Thorn walk past me to the back corner. He returned carrying a rifle that looked like it had survived a war and lost. Scratched stock, loose sights, the kind of weapon that gets retired for a reason. He held it out to me with a smile that didn't reach his eyes. Marlowe appeared beside him, examining her perfect manicure, and said with fake sweetness, "It's perfect for your skill level, Brynn. Wouldn't want you breaking the good equipment." The humiliation didn't stop there. While the team practiced competition-level precision drills at regulation distance, Thorn assigned me beginner exercises, paper targets with cartoon bullseyes at half the distance everyone else shot. I was 19 years old, standing there like a child while they fired at advanced moving targets and called out scores that made the coach nod with approval. My bullets scattered across the paper because the rifle pulled left with every shot. Their bullets hit dead center, and the whispers started. I heard them between rounds, during water breaks in the locker room. Scholarship case. Probably lied on her application. Why is she even here? Each word landed like a physical blow. 3 weeks in, it got worse. Thorne called a team meeting in the common area, and I should have known something was coming by the way Marlowe kept glancing at me with that sharp smile. He pulled up a presentation on the projector, calling it progress reports. When he got to mine, the room filled with my target sheet, photoshopped next to a kindergarten crayon drawing. The comparison was deliberate and devastating. The room erupted in laughter. People I'd tried to befriend, people who'd ignored me in the halls, all of them laughing like I was the funniest joke they'd ever heard. Marlowe leaned back in her chair and said loud enough for everyone to hear, "Maybe we should get you one of those participant ribbons. You know, so you feel included." I tried to defend myself. My voice shook as I said the equipment they gave me was faulty, that the sights were off, that I wasn't being given a fair chance. Thorne cut me off mid-sentence. "A real shooter doesn't blame their tools, Brynn." The finality in his voice silenced me completely. I left that meeting while they were still laughing, and I could hear them through the closed door as I walked down the hallway. I made it to the stairwell before the tears came. But I'm stubborn. 2 weeks later, I stayed late and used money I'd saved from my campus job to rent better equipment I was finally shooting respectably, feeling the weight of a balanced rifle when Marlowe and 2 of her friends walked in. The look on her face when she saw me hitting consistent groupings was pure rage. She stormed across the range and ripped the rifle from my hands so hard I stumbled backward. "Who said you could use this gear? This is for competitors." I found my voice. "I paid for the rental time." That's when she hit me, a backhand across my face that sent shock through my entire body. "Know your place, scholarship trash." They reported me to the coach for unauthorized equipment use and aggressive behavior. I got suspended for a week. They got nothing. That night, alone in my dorm with a bruise blooming across my cheek, I stared at my dad's photo and almost gave them what they wanted. Almost. The suspension was supposed to break me. It was supposed to be the final push that sent me packing back to wherever people like me belonged, far away from their perfect world. But something happened during that week away from the range. I stopped crying. I stopped feeling sorry for myself. And I started getting angry. Not the kind of anger that makes you scream or lash out. The cold kind. The kind that calculates and plans and refuses to quit. My dad used to say that pressure either crushes you or turns you into a diamond. I decided which one I'd be. I discovered that the range opened at 6 in the morning, a full 2 hours before anyone on the team even thought about waking up. No Thorne, no Marlowe, no witnesses to my failures or my progress. Just me, the targets, and the sunrise coming through the windows. I started showing up every single day, teaching myself with online videos and my dad's old training journal that I'd kept hidden in my closet. Page after page of his handwriting, breaking down techniques I'd forgotten, breathing patterns I'd ignored, fundamentals that actually mattered. And then I realized something that changed everything. Those beginner drills they'd mocked me with, those cartoon targets at half distance. They'd accidentally given me the perfect foundation. My breathing control was flawless. My trigger discipline was muscle memory. My stance was so solid I could hold position for minutes without shaking. They thought they were humiliating me. They were training me. That's when I met Silas. He was the elderly range maintenance man, the guy everyone ignored because he just cleaned and locked up and kept the place running. He noticed me those early mornings, watched me struggle and improve, and one day he mentioned he'd worked with my dad years ago at a different facility. He remembered him. He told me stories about my father's dedication, his precision, how he never gave up on anything. And then Silas started leaving things unlocked. The good rifles. The competition-grade equipment. He never said it was for me. But every morning there'd be a case open that shouldn't be, a weapon available that wasn't supposed to be accessible. He gave me one piece of advice that stuck in my head like a mantra. Anger makes you shake, Brynn. Purpose makes you steady. 6 weeks of dawn training turned me into someone I didn't recognize. My hands stopped trembling when I loaded rounds. My groupings went from scattered to tight to impossibly precise. The numbers on the electronic scoring system became my obsession. 85, then 92, then 97, then 99. I wasn't just good anymore. I was exceptional. Every sunrise I watched through those windows felt like a promise I was keeping to myself and to my dad. Every bullet hole that clustered closer to center was proof that they hadn't broken me. The girl who'd left that team meeting in tears didn't exist anymore. I'd rebuilt myself into something harder, sharper, unshakable. Meanwhile, Thorne and Marlowe got comfortable. I'd see their social media posts, parties and weekend trips, their faces smug with the certainty that they'd won. They stopped talking about me. I became a forgotten problem, a scholarship case who'd disappeared like all the others probably had. They had no idea what was coming. They had no idea that while they slept and celebrated and assumed they were untouchable, I was building something they could never take away from me, not with insults, not with slaps, not with anything. I was becoming the thing they feared most, someone better than them. And I was just getting started. Week 12. The regional qualifier was being held at our range, and I entered my name at the last possible minute. The coach looked surprised when he saw my registration, but scholarship terms meant he couldn't refuse me. I had every right to compete. When Thorne saw my name on the competitor lineup board, he actually laughed out loud. "This should be entertaining," he said to Marlowe, who looked at me like I was something she'd scraped off her shoe. She turned to her friends, making sure I could hear every word. "Watch her choke. Some people are born losers." I didn't respond. I didn't even look at them. I just checked my lane assignment and realized fate had a sense of humor. I was shooting directly between Thorne and Marlowe. The tension in that range was thick enough to cut. Competition rules were simple. 3 rounds, 10 shots each, increasing difficulty with each stage. The scouts were watching, clipboards out, ready to identify the next generation of champions. This was everything Thorne had built his identity around, everything Marlowe had attached herself to. And I was about to take it all apart. Bullet by bullet, round 1 started, and I shot clean. Not perfect, but solid. 94 out of 100. Thorne hit 96, his usual score, completely unbothered. Marlowe managed 93. They whispered jokes to each other between shots, performing for their audience, confident and untouchable. But I noticed something. Thorne glanced at my score twice, just twice, but it was enough. Round 2 ramped up the difficulty. Moving targets, wind simulation, the kind of conditions that separate trained shooters from lucky ones. I breathed the way my dad taught me, squeezed the trigger the way Silas had shown me, and let every morning of practice guide my hands. 98 out of 101 shot just barely off center, so close it almost hurt. Thorne scored 97. I watched him rush a shot, watched the pressure crack his perfect facade just slightly. Marlowe fell to 91, and her hands were shaking when she reloaded. The atmosphere in the range shifted like a storm rolling in. Whispers spread through the crowd. Scouts started taking more notes, leaning forward in their seats. Marlowe hissed at me between rounds, her voice venomous. "You're using performance drugs or something, I'll report you." I didn't even look at her, just reloaded and waited for round 3. The final round was brutal, extreme difficulty, the course that determined regional ranking and separated good shooters from legendary ones. The current range record was 99 out of 100, held by Thorne for 3 consecutive years. 1 bullet barely outside the bullseye, but still untouchable, still his. I stepped up to my lane and the entire range went silent. Shot 1, center, shot 2, center, shot 3, center. I heard Marlowe's rifle shake in her trembling hands. Shot 4, center, shot 5, center. Thorne muttered a curse under his breath. Shot 6, center, shot 7, center. The crowd was holding its breath. Shot 8, center, shot 9, center. 1 shot left. Time slowed down to nothing. I could see my dad's face in my mind, feel his hand on my shoulder, hear his voice telling me I was exactly where I belonged. I breathed out slowly and squeezed the trigger one last time. Perfect center, 100 out of 100, a perfect score. The range exploded with noise, but all I heard was the electronic board flashing above me, new facility record, my name replacing Thorne's on the leaderboard, and the look on his face when he realized what I'd just done. The range erupted into chaos. Scouts rushed toward me. The coach stood speechless with his mouth actually hanging open, and the electronic board kept flashing like it couldn't believe what it was displaying, either new facility record. My name in bright digital letters where Thorns had lived for 3 years. I watched his face drain of color, watched the rifle hang limp in his hands like he'd forgotten how to hold it. And Marlo? She lost it completely. "That's impossible! She cheated! Someone check her equipment!" Her voice was shrill, desperate, cracking at the edges. Officials swarmed my lane, inspecting the rifle I'd used, the oldest model in the entire facility. The same one they'd mocked me with on day 1. The same scratched, unbalanced weapon they'd handed me like a joke, and I'd just broken a record with it. A scout from the national team pushed through the crowd, her eyes locked on me. "Miss Brynn, we need to discuss your future." I nodded, but I couldn't speak yet. My hands were steady, my heart was racing, and everything felt surreal. This was supposed to be their moment, their glory, and I'd taken it with 10 perfect shots. After the ceremony, Marlo cornered me near the locker room. She'd been crying, angry tears that left mascara tracks down her face, and she looked nothing like the polished, cruel girl who'd slapped me weeks ago. "You ruined everything! Thorn lost his sponsorship renewal because of you." Her voice was raw, accusatory, like I'd committed some unforgivable sin. I looked at her, really looked at her, and for the first time I didn't feel intimidated or small. I felt calm. "No, Marlo, you ruined it when you decided cruelty was easier than kindness." Thorn appeared behind her, trying one last time to intimidate me, to make me back down. "You think this changes anything? My family funded this range. We built this program." I stepped closer, and he actually flinched. "Your family funded the range. My score just made it famous. Who do you think they value more now?" I walked away while they stood frozen, and I didn't look back. The investigation happened fast. I'd filed a formal complaint the night before the competition, documented everything, every insult, every incident. The slap that left a bruise I'd photographed, security footage backed up my story. And then others came forward, students they'd bullied into silence, scholarship kids who'd quit rather than endure what I had. The consequences were swift and absolute. Marlo was expelled for physical assault. Thorn was stripped of his captaincy and suspended for 2 semesters. Their crew faced disciplinary action. The coach apologized to me privately, admitted he'd ignored red flags because it was easier than confronting legacy students. His guilt didn't erase what happened, but at least it was honest. They offered me team captaincy. I turned it down. Instead, I proposed something better. A mentorship program for scholarship students, protections against equipment sabotage, mandatory respect policies. 6 months later, I was training for nationals with equipment I'd earned and respect I'd fought for. 4 new scholarship students joined the program, and I made damn sure no one touched their gear or made them feel less than. Silas was honored at a special ceremony for his quiet support of struggling students, and I placed a photo of my dad in my new locker with a note underneath. "This one's for you." They thought assigning me beginner drills was an insult. It became the foundation that let me build something they never could. Real skill, real strength, real victory. They thought assigning me beginner drills was an insult. Turned out it was the foundation that let me build something they never could. Real skill. Thorn had talent and privilege, Marlo had cruelty and connections, but neither had what I found in those early mornings. Purpose. The rifle that broke the record? It's in a case now, with a plaque that reads, "Excellence doesn't require perfection, just persistence." To anyone who's been handed the broken equipment, the mockery, the doubt, don't let them make you smaller. Use every insult as target practice. One day, you won't just hit the mark, you'll set a record they'll never touch. If this story hit home, hit that subscribe button and drop a comment telling me about your comeback moment. Next week's story is even crazier. Trust me, you don't want to miss it. Until then, remember this: they can hand you the worst tools, but they can't stop you from becoming the sharpest weapon in the room.